Well, hello and welcome to my latest video. Now, I thought I'd do something today that I've been thinking about for a while, and I thought it was time I committed it to celluloid. Well, it's not celluloid, is it? What do they make digital SD cards out of? Is it celluloid? Anyway, I'm talking about film, so we're getting off the subject. What I wanted to do is 10 reasons why old guys, it's not just old guys, but I think to a certain extent I'm talking about old guys. 10 reasons why old guys ought to be cycling, and if you are cycling, why you ought to be cycling more, and perhaps to give some explanation of what it is about cycling that is such a wonderful sport and a wonderful activity, and not just for people of a certain age. I'm 64, by the way. Somebody described me on my last video, or my last video but one, I think it is, which was 7 reasons not to buy a gravel bike. Please check it out if you haven't watched it yet. Anyway, somebody described it, or left a comment saying, "Okay, boomer," and I didn't know what a boomer was, so I had to Google it, and it says it's a term used by the younger generation to describe somebody from the baby boom generation, i.e. somebody born in the 50s and 60s, who has old-fashioned or out-of-date views that don't correspond to the young people of today. And definitely that is a description of me. Somebody else called me a curmudgeonly old codger, and somebody else, thank you everyone for your comments, by the way, called me the Jeremy Clarkson of cycling, and I do not know whether to hang my head in shame or to say thank you, Jesus, for recognising what I've been trying to do all my life. Anyway, 10 reasons why old guys ought to cycle. Reason number 1 is risk. Now, cycling is a risky activity. It cannot be denied. 2 of my friends have been killed cycling. 3 or 4 have had serious injuries, and I'm talking serious injuries: a bleed on the brain, a broken shoulder, cracked ribs. Well, actually everybody's had cracked ribs, and practically everybody I know, including me, has had an accident. Not everyone's accident has been their own fault, as most of mine have been, but it's a risky activity. But one of the reasons why I think people of my age or pushing towards that age enjoy cycling is because there is an element of risk in cycling which has been largely excluded from the rest of our lives. If we go out to a pub on a Friday night, not that I do go out to a pub on a Friday night, but the chances of a 64-year-old getting into a fight are fairly slim. It's not like a 19 or a 20-year-old, something like that. The chances of us getting into other forms of risky activities are relatively slim. But if you're cycling on the road, there are some inherent dangers. There are dangers from potholes, there are dangers from bad road surfaces, there are dangers from BMW drivers. Other makes of car are available. There are dangers from white van drivers. I went for a ride a couple of days ago, and I had one of the closest passes I've ever been. The wing mirror of this van, and yes, it's always a van, brushed the hairs on my ears, which have been recently shaved, so he got that close. And the person behind me said, "I had my heart in my mouth. I don't know how you managed to stay on your bike." And I said, well, if you're a cyclist, you get close past 2, 3, 4 times every time you go out for a ride, so you get used to it. So there are risks involved in cycling. Let's not pretend that there aren't. But one of the things that we enjoy cycling is because of those risks. We don't want to take unnecessary risks. We don't want to hurt ourselves. We don't want to be involved in accidents. We don't want to crash while doing 40 miles an hour downhill. But we recognise that it can happen, and that element of getting out on the edge, which is an edge that you tend not to find very much when you get to a certain age, is one of the things that I think makes cycling so enjoyable. So that's reason number 1. Reason number 2 is escape. Now, everybody has things they want to escape from. I'm not trying to escape from my wife. I love my wife Jane. She is wonderful about my cycling. But as with all things in life, when you get out on your bike and you get out in the open air and you get out under the blue skies or the grey skies or the rainy skies or the sunny skies with the white vans trying to shave your ears, It's an escape, and it's escape from the pressures of life. Okay, come on, you're going to say, Julian, for Christ's sake, you're retired. What pressures have you got in your life? Everyone's got pressures. You do not want to know from pressures in my life. But anyway, everybody has pressures. And when you're on the bike and you go for a long ride, and if you go for a long ride and it's a hard ride, your mind is concentrating on your legs, it's concentrating on your arms, it's concentrating on trying to avoid the potholes, it's concentrating on trying not to respond to people who tell you to fuck off in white BMWs or brown BMWs or any other colour BMW for that matter. So it gives you a chance to get away, to get out there, to get away from the pressures of your life, whether that's home life, whether that's work life, not in my case anymore. It's an escape. It's your chance to find some freedom on the open road under your own steam or your own pedalling legs, and it's getting away from it all. So escape is reason number 2. Reason number 3 is what I'm going to call parity. And what I mean by parity is that I'm a reasonably decent club cyclist. I'm not going to claim anything more than that. I'm not a racer. I'm not a time trialist. I'm not going to beat everybody on the road. But I can ride with people who are 40, 50 years younger than me. People of every generation, people of any gender, people of any background, strong cyclists, and I can maintain my, I can ride with them. Sometimes I can beat them, sometimes they beat me, sometimes we ride together. I can ride beside a 20-year-old and we can race each other up a hill, and I can't do that in most other sports. I was a rugby player. I was never a great rugby player, and I stopped when I was about 20. But if I was 64, I couldn't compete against 20-year-olds. If I was a football player, if I was possibly a marathon runner, but I'm not a marathon runner. Who wants to be a marathon runner? But in most sports, I can't compete with the young people, the people in their 20s, the people in their 30s. But if I'm cycling, I can. I can stay with them on the hills, I can stay with them on the flat, I can go fast with them, and we ride as equals. And sometimes I'm riding with a young person and I think they think they're quicker than me, but they're not. And sometimes they want to test that out, and sometimes the red mist comes down, not really red mist at my age, but the red mist comes down and you think, yes, I'm going to stay with you. I can stay on your wheel, I'm going to pass you, I'm going to get to the finish line before you, I can get to that road sign before you, whatever it is on the club run. So for a strictly average cyclist who is in advancing years, I'm not advanced years, there are plenty of cyclists who are older than me, who I can stay with, and there are some that I can't, as there are some youngsters that I can't. But in terms of a sport that allows you to compete on reasonably equal terms with people of all ages and all abilities, cycling is a fabulous activity. So that is reason number 3. Reason number 4 is exercise. Now, I really don't enjoy exercise. I don't enjoy swimming. My legs are, well, I've never really enjoyed running. Walking isn't a sport. Walking is an activity that you use to get from A to B. Weights, yeah, I try and do weights. I try and do push-ups. Well, I try and do 2 push-ups. But exercise as an activity is not something that floats my boat. Now, it may well float your boat, but if you're an older person and you're looking for an activity that is an exercise without being an exercise, then cycling is a wonderful thing to do, because you are getting aerobic exercise, you're making your heart beat faster, you're making your lungs work, you're making your muscles work, largely your leg muscles, and that's something to be aware of, but you're making your body work, and it's good for you. Exercise is good for you. I know it's good for me, I know I ought to do it, I know it's helpful, etc., etc. But I can do my cycling and get my exercise. So instead of the government or whoever it is, your doctor saying to you, you've got to exercise, and you say, I don't want to exercise, I hate exercising. Exercising is the most boring thing on earth. Take up cycling And you can get your exercise without thinking that it's exercise. You can just think of it as cycling. So you can enjoy all the other benefits of cycling and the other reasons that I list in this particular video and get your exercise without even thinking about it. Reason number 5 is what I call camaraderie. Now, Cheers was a comedy program that used to be on the telly probably 20 years ago, probably longer now. So you young people, you opposite of boomers, whatever the opposite of boomers are, may not know what I'm talking about. But it was a comedy set in a bar in Boston. It was very popular, very funny. Us boomers really enjoyed it. Anyway, the theme song to that was The Place Where Everyone Knows Your Name. So you could go to this bar and you would be among friends, you would be among people who knew you. Now, the thing about cycling, and this is particularly true if you join a cycling club, I'm a member of the Old Portlean Cycling Club, www.oldportleancc.co.uk, if you're looking for a club in South London, is camaraderie. You get to ride with other like-minded people, different ages, different nationalities, different genders, different backgrounds. Some are rich, some are poor, some are fat, some are thin, some are fast, some are slow. There's almost a song there. It doesn't matter. What brings you together is a love of cycling, and you will meet people that get on your nerves. Yes, you will meet people that you strike up a deep and lasting friendship with. You will meet people who are passing acquaintances in the night. And when you're on the road as a cyclist, one of the things that we pride ourselves on in the Old Portleans, and not all clubs do this, is that we nod or wave or say hello to other cyclists. And it's an important element of the sport. The fact that you have this camaraderie, this friendship, this group of people with a shared interest, as you get all the other benefits, you find people that you like, and who knows, you might find somebody that you love. You might find your life partner of cycling. Why not? I know people who have. Reason number 6, and this might sound a bit basic, but fresh air is reason number 6. If you're of a certain age and you spend a lot of time in the house, or you spend a lot of time in a sedentary activity, maybe you're still working and you're in the office all the time, and then you get in your car or you get in the train if you're still travelling by train, and if you're still going to work anyway, but you don't get much in the way of fresh air. I don't mean sitting in the garden, I don't mean on the golf course, I mean real fresh air out in the countryside where the winds blow and the birds sing and the breeze ripples through the treetops. Yes, the fresh air of an open air countryside and the smell of the countryside and the pig slurry and the tractors going past. It's fresh air and it fills your nostrils and it makes you feel alive, and it makes you feel, well, sometimes it makes you cough and sometimes it makes you splutter and sometimes it makes you catch your breath, but you get the fresh air. And cycling is a wonderful way of enjoying just the open air and the fresh air of the countryside. Reason number 7. All the gear and no idea. Yes, I love the kit. And doesn't everybody? Man or woman, whatever sport, whatever hobby you get involved in, you get the opportunity to buy the kit. And if you're a cyclist, there is no end. You can buy always another bicycle, always another jersey, always try a different helmet, always get some new wheels, always try some different shoes, always buy some books or some magazines or some posters or some tickets to the Tour de France, if you can still get tickets to the Tour de France. You get the opportunity, and okay, you don't need to, you don't have to buy lots of kit. It's not an expensive hobby to get into. But if you want to get into a hobby where you have the opportunity and almost the right, yes, boys and girls, the right to fill your life with kit and browse the online retailers, but don't buy from the online retailers. Go down to your local cycle shop and purchase stuff. And is there any joy greater? Well, of course there is, Julian. There's plenty of joys greater than it. But is there any joy? Of course there is joy. There's no need to repeat yourself. Is there any joy greater than getting a new kit, whether it's a new bicycle or a new group set or a new set of wheels or even some new handlebar tape or some cleats for your shoes, whatever it is. Go out and buy, my friends, particularly during this difficult time for the country and the economy and the recession. If you've got any money left and you like cycling and you're of a certain age and you want to spend money, then go and buy some kit. You'll make yourself happy. We're now up to reason number 8. And reason number 8 is something that I call limits. Now, the thing about cycling, and I suppose it's true of some other sports, but the thing about cycling is that you get to test your limits. You get to push your limits. I don't know how far I can ride before I collapse, fall asleep, fall off the bike, but there is something about it that makes me want to find that limit. I want to ride 150, well, I've done 150 miles. I want to do 200 miles. Now, I know that there are audaxers and there are other people who specialise in long distance rides who've done hundreds of miles, who've done thousands of miles, who do non-stop Land's End to John O'Groats. But cycling gives you that, gives you an opportunity to push the envelope, to find your limits, to test yourself, to see just how far am I able to go, just how far am I able to push myself before I can't do it any further. And that's something that I've done up to a point. I haven't found my limits yet. Yes, I've been exhausted after rides. Yes, I've been totally knackered and thought, well, there's only a couple of miles to go and I don't know if I'm going to make it. But I've never yet got to a point where I said, I can't go on. I have to get the train. I mean, I've got the train because of a mechanical problem, but I've never got the train because I've been so tired, so exhausted, so wasted that I just can't finish that ride. So find your limits, guys. Push your envelope. See what your body is capable of and test yourself. And the older you get, the more you want to test yourself, I think. The more you want to push yourself. You think you want to do it when you're young, but when you're young it's easy and it's harder to find the limits. When you get older, it's not so hard to find the limits. Therefore, you've got an opportunity of getting there and not getting there. So test yourself, push yourself, find your limits. My 9th reason is variety. Cycling gives you the opportunity to ride in the hills, ride in the flat, ride up mountains, ride down mountains, ride in the city, ride on the track, ride in the park, ride on quiet roads, ride on busy roads, not motorways, not allowed on motorways. It gives you a variety of environments, a variety of topography, a variety of countries to visit, places to see, worlds to conquer, as Alexander said, who was 33 and wept when he was told there were no more worlds to conquer. Imagine that you've done all the cycling and you've been through every country in the world. There is still a pass that you haven't done. There is still a cul-de-sac that you haven't disappeared into. There is still a hill that you haven't climbed. There is still a swamp you haven't got stuck in. There is still a rubble-strewn, goat-track gravel path for you to discover if only you had that gravel bike and you hadn't listened to what I said in my video about not buying a gravel bike. Instead, you'd watched the video about 10 reasons to buy a gravel bike and you've said, that's the one for me, and you went and bought it and you discovered the wide variety of surfaces and roads and places and things to see. And my last reason, and this is one that people often talk about cycling, and it's not specific to old guys or old girls even, and everything that I've said, by the way, doesn't just apply to males, it applies to females just as much, transgender people as well. It's open to everyone. But it's about riding like the pros. How many people have said, well, you can't really go and play at Wembley, you can't really go and play rugby at Twickenham, but you can ride where the pros have ridden. You can ride the roads of the Tour de France, you can ride the roads of the Tour of Flanders, or you can ride the cobbles of Paris-Roubaix, as I have done. You can climb the hills of Liège-Bastogne-Liège. You can do all these things that the pros have done. And my mate Ian Hawthorne in the old Portlands, who's out in France at the moment, did a climb, a tough climb, and then descended on that climb and put up his Strava data. And you know, he is #1 descender on that route, beating 9, count them, 9 pro cyclists. So well done, Ian. So that is something that you can do yourself. You can ride a bike on the same roads as the pros, and if you're a demon descender like Ian is, or you have a turn of pace like you may have, or you're a fabulous climber that you may do, you can compete on those same roads, not necessarily at the same time, but you may be out in Tenerife or Gran Canaria or on some training camp somewhere, and you pass the pros. I've done it myself. I've seen them on the roads. Went out to Amstel Gold and did a recce of the route the day before, and there were plenty of pro riders and pro teams on the same route. So you can ride them at the same time, not in a race sense, but in a reconnaissance sense, and then you can ride those same roads as they do, and you can try and beat their times on Strava, as my mate Ian did. So 10 reasons why old guys, old girls, any person of any gender can, should, must take up cycling, because it is the most wonderful activity that God has ever invented, and long may it continue. So I'm sorry if I've rambled on a bit. If you like my videos, please subscribe. If you want other people to see what you've seen, then please share and like my videos, and I'll see you on the road, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.